Hello everyone. Welcome back to the new session of biology. Chapter 15 Excretion and Osmoregulation Part 4. Last time we studied about LS of kidney, structure of nephron, types of nephron, functions of nephron, blood supply to kidney, juxtaglomerular apparatus, that is JG apparatus, and function of JG apparatus. Today we'll start with urine formation. Process of urine formation is completed in 3 steps. First one is ultrafiltration or glomerular filtration. Second step is selective reabsorption. And third step is tubular secretion or augmentation. So let's start with the first step of urine formation, that is ultrafiltration or glomerular filtration. This step takes place in glomerulus, or you can say in Malpighian corpuscle, where glomerulus and Bowman's capsule is present. So we know the structure of glomerulus. We have seen that diameter of afferent arteriole is greater than that of afferent arteriole. In between these two, there is tuft of capillaries. The diameter of capillaries is still smaller than both these arterioles. So due to such a differences in diameter, blood flows with greater pressure through glomerulus. And this pressure is called as glomerular hydrostatic pressure, that is GHP, and normally this pressure is near about 55 mm of mercury. This pressure is opposed by osmotic pressure of blood, and normally osmotic pressure of blood is near about 30 mm of mercury. Plus it is also opposed by the capsular pressure, that means the filtrate which is present in the capsular region, and this is normally about 15 mm of mercury. Hence we can say that the net filtration pressure, or you can say that effective filtration pressure, in short EFP. There is a formula for EFP, that is EFP is equal to hydrostatic pressure in glomerulus minus osmotic pressure of blood plus filtrate hydrostatic pressure. And now I told you hydrostatic pressure is near about 55 mm of mercury. Osmotic pressure of blood is near about 30 mm of mercury, and filtrate hydrostatic pressure, that is capsular pressure, is near about 15 mm of mercury. So by adding all these in the formula, we can get the EFP. This EFP is 10 mm of mercury. You can say see this 55 minus 30 plus 15. So the answer here is 10 mm of mercury, which is EFP, that is effective filtration pressure. Now here if you see the wall of capillaries, these capillaries are extremely thin. Because of high pressure which is exerted on walls, these walls become permeable to major components of blood. So here majority of components present in the blood is filtered except blood cells and macromolecules, for example protein. Now what happens here? Plasma, except plasma proteins, oozes out through the wall of capillary. That means plasma without protein enters inside the capillary and gets filtered. So about 600 ml of blood passes through each kidney per minute. The blood plasma which is flowing through kidney or glomerulus is filtered as glomerular filtrate. So the rate at which the filtrate is formed in glomerulus is called glomerular filtration rate, or GFR. This GFR is 125 ml per minute, or you can say 180 liters per day. Glomerular filtrate or deproteinized plasma, you can call it, or you can call it as primary urine, because it is not urine. It contains useful substances also, it contains harmful substances also. So you can call it as primary urine. This is alkaline in nature. It contains urea, amino acids, glucose, pigments, and inorganic ions. So glomerular filtrate passes through filtration slits present in the capsular space, and then it reaches PCT, that is proximal convoluted tubule. Now in proximal convoluted tubule, the second step starts, which is selective reabsorption. PCT is the place for reabsorption. It is highly coiled so that the glomerular filtrate passes through it very slowly. Now in PCT, we have already seen that columnar cells are present which contains microvilli. This microvilli increases the area of absorption. So because of this, the process of reabsorption becomes very effective. Now these cells perform active reabsorption as well as passive reabsorption. Active reabsorption is ATP mediated. That means it requires energy, that is ATP molecules. Whereas passive reabsorption is done by simple diffusion. So there are certain substances which are of more importance to our body. Such substances are called as high threshold value substances. For example, glucose, amino acids, vitamin C, calcium ion, potassium ion, sodium ion, chloride ion, etc. etc. These all high threshold value substances are absorbed actively against concentration gradient. If I say it is absorbed actively, that means it requires energy, that is ATP molecules. Whereas there are certain substances which are low threshold value substances like water, sulfates, nitrates, etc. These are absorbed passively. So remember, high threshold substances are absorbed actively, whereas low threshold substances are absorbed passively. In this way, about 99% of glomerular filtrate is reabsorbed in PCT and DCT. Now this filtrate enters into third part. That third part is tubular secretion, or we can also call it as augmentation. Now here this particular step takes place in DCT. What happens here? The filtrate from PCT passing through loop of Henle now enters into DCT. This is surrounded by peritubular capillaries. Now cells of DCT and collecting tubule, they actively absorb waste like creatinine and ions. Certain ions, for example potassium ion, hydrogen ion, etc., from the peritubular capillaries and secrete them into lumen of DCT and collecting tubule. So this process is called augmenting or augmentation. Now here what happens, there is concentration of urine which is increased and it changes the pH of urine from alkaline to acidic. We already studied that during the first step. Whatever primary urine was formed, that was alkaline in nature. Now in DCT, whatever urine is formed, it is acidic in nature. Secretion of hydrogen ion in DCT and collecting tubule is important for homeostatic mechanism, for pH regulation of blood. This process is called as tubular secretion. Tubular secretion is the only mode of excretion in marine bony fishes and desert amphibians. Now let's come towards the next part, that is concentration of urine. How the urine becomes concentrated. We know the three steps, and we know from first step to last step alkaline condition changes into acidic condition. How does this concentration takes place? We have to study it in detail. If suppose there are conditions like you have low water intake or there is high water loss due to sweating, in that condition concentrated urine is produced from our body. It can be almost 4 times concentrated, that is 1200 milliosmol per liter, than the blood, because blood is having near about 300 milliosmol per liter concentration. So the concentration has been increased from 300 to 1200 milliosmol per liter. For this purpose, a mechanism is operated in human kidney, and this mechanism takes place in limbs of Henle's loop, that is loop of Henle, of juxtamedullary nephrons and vasa recta. They together operate counter current mechanism. How this mechanism works? Now, in this mechanism, you will find the passage of fluid from descending limb of loop of Henle to ascending limb of loop of Henle. Flow of tubular fluid is in opposite directions through both limbs. So as they are in opposite directions, so the name is given counter current. Counter means opposite and current means flow. In case of vasa recta, the blood flows from ascending to descending part of itself. That means both are antagonistic to each other. In loop of Henle, you will find the direction is from descending to ascending limb, whereas in vasa recta, the blood flows from ascending to descending limb. So walls of descending limb is thin and permeable to water. We already studied about it. Whereas the walls of ascending limb is thick and impermeable to water. That means what? In descending limb, as it is permeable to water, so water diffuses from tubular fluid, means comes out from the tubular fluid into tissue fluid, due to which the tubular fluid, that means the fluid which is present in the tube or loop of Henle, it becomes concentrated. Whereas in ascending limb, as it is thick walled, the cells can reabsorb sodium ion and chloride ion from the tubular fluid. So it releases these into tissue fluid. Here, sodium chloride ions can be absorbed and released into tissue fluid. Due to this, the tissue fluid which is present around descending limb becomes concentrated. This makes more water to move out from descending limb into tissue fluid by osmosis. Thus, as tubular fluid passes down through descending limb, the osmolarity or concentration increases slowly due to water loss on the uh, and you will find, on the other hand, it progressively decreases due to sodium and chloride ion secretion as it flows up through ascending limb. So in descending limb, concentration increases, whereas in ascending limb, the concentration decreases. In one, it increases, in other, it decreases. Besides this, whenever water is required by the body, that means water retention is necessary for the body. At that time, your pituitary gland secretes a hormone called ADH, that is anti-diuretic hormone. This ADH makes the cells in the wall of collecting ducts permeable to water. That means it allows water to go out from collecting duct. Now, due to this, what happens? The water moves from tubular fluid into tissue fluid. Means the water from collecting tube or collecting duct moves out and enters into the tissue fluid. Because of this, the urine becomes concentrated. Now, cells present in the wall of deep medullary part of collecting duct. We have already seen the collecting duct. Collecting duct ends into the medullary part. The wall of deep medullary part is permeable to urea. Now, as the concentrated urine flows through this collecting duct, urea diffuses out from urine into tissue fluid, and from tissue fluid it goes into tubular fluid, flowing through thin ascending limb of Henle's loop. This urea cannot pass out from tubular fluid while flowing through thick segment of ascending limb. Now here DCT and cortical portion of collecting duct, because they are impermeable in this region, they does not allow urea to go out. However, while flowing through collecting duct, water reabsorption is operated because of ADH. Now, due to this, urea concentration increases in tubular fluid, and some urea again diffuses into tissue fluid in deep medullary region. Thus, you can say same urea is transferred again and again between renal tubule and tissue fluid of inner medulla. This part where the urea transfers again and again between renal tubule and tissue fluid of inner medulla, it is called urea recycling. It is operated for more and more water reabsorption from tubular fluid and thereby excreting small volumes of concentrated urine. Now here the osmotic gradient is more important in medullary region for water reabsorption by counter current system. This osmotic gradient is maintained by vasa recta because it is operating counter current exchange system. I already told you vasa recta is opposite to that of limb of loop Henle's. So vasa recta also have descending and ascending limb. But here what happens, the blood that enters the descending limb of vasa recta has normal osmolarity, that is near about 300 milliosmol per liter, which is equal to that of the normal blood. Now, as it flows down in the region of renal medulla, where tissue fluid becomes increasingly concentrated, that means sodium chloride ion and urea molecules diffuse from tissue fluid into blood, and water diffuses from blood into tissue fluid. Due to this, the blood becomes more concentrated, which now flows through ascending part of vasa recta. This part runs through such region of medulla where tissue fluid is less concentrated. So now due to this, sodium ion, chloride ion and urea molecules diffuse from blood to tissue fluid, and water diffuses from tissue fluid to blood. This mechanism helps to maintain the osmotic gradient so as to reabsorb water to maximum capacity, because water is required by body. Now, in certain animals where maximum water has to be reabsorbed, in those animals you will find loops of Henle are longer. For example, desert mammal, that is camel. Due to this, camel excretes concentrated urine because maximum water is reabsorbed by loop of Henle by this process, and urine becomes more concentrated. I hope you understood the topic. Let's have a quick summary. Today we studied only two parts. One is urine formation, which takes place in three steps, that is ultrafiltration, selective reabsorption, and tubular secretion. And we studied about concentration of urine. So we'll meet again in the next video. Till then, take good care of yourselves. Thank you.